Alrighty. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Backyard Peace Project, our coaching call for the 3rd of month,
September.
is it? September. I don't know what day it is. Just to run through a good little chat about life, all things exciting in what we're about to, I guess, delve into. And as I'll be filling in for Kathy today, and glad to be able to step in and have a crack. And thanks, guys, for showing up. And we're going to go through something pretty, I don't, as always, dive deep into whatever's going on in our minds. And as Kathy's way of setting us up is a bit of a mystery that nobody knows what we're about to jump into except for me at this stage. Even I don't know where this will go, but I'm excited to test it out. So it's, I guess, just to jump straight into it. The things that have been coming up, or just a bit of a theme this week. Had the privilege to go and talk at a school this week to Year 12 students, and it sparked a bit of a memory of for myself of what I wish I knew when I was in high school or growing up as a teenager, or just a younger version of me. And it sparked an idea of like thinking back to that time when I was a teenager and wanting to, I guess, if I knew what I know now back then, would things be different? And how would I evolve and grow into who I am today? And there's a 50-50 sort of space, or it opens up a door to a lot of opportunities. But some of the experiences I had when I was a teenager has formed me to be in my world right now in my life, and what I teach and what I use as my tools for coaching to helping people through anxiety, through overwhelm, and I guess making the most of our time as we grow and live in our lives. And what I wanted to sort of set up the theme for today is about hindsight. And with that hindsight, lessons learned that have had a positive impact in your life. So thinking about where you are in your life and what you're doing now, and maybe there's a memory coming up for you, or there's an idea that's popping into your lives. Because sometimes I know when talking to some clients and they're talking about the challenges that they're going through, it's always when we're in the challenge, we don't see the benefits of it. It's not until later, the hindsight, we look back and go, oh, wow, that actually helped me through or be stronger in these situations, or to want to know more about myself, my life, and the world. And so I want to throw it out to you guys and think about what would you say to your younger self and why?
Wow. Loaded as always. You do Kathy proud. Oh, wow. I'm going to share something here because it just came up for me instantly when you said that the hindsight, we often talk about this hindsight is 2020 vision. And I had a really, yeah, I want to call it beautiful experience after Rob died, that I looked back at my timeline and realized all those stepping stones and all those little and really big moments in my life that had prepared me to deal with my husband's passing. And you don't think about that going forward ever. You don't think like, oh, something could happen that I could use this memory or this amazing thing that I learned through my dad's passing. I don't think you ever make that connection until you have the hindsight and the 2020 vision, and you realize that everything in life has prepared me to be where and who I am today. And I call that the hidden gifts in adversity. When you look back and you realize in a moment that is actually really heavy and loaded and heartbreaking, when you realize what you were made for, what you were prepared for. And in my case, changing and shifting the whole narrative on grief and taking thousands of people on the journey with me to realize that there is also joy and love and healing in grief. And that's what people usually don't think about first when they hear grief. And yeah, I'm going to start it off with that. Also, something really light. So But yeah, hindsight
Of course.
is incredible, you know. It's such a gift, actually. I see it
Yeah.
as a huge gift. Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually did a post on this just 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
It was just looking back, we were challenged to write if I only knew back then. Um, and my post just came to me immediately from hiding a medical diagnosis for so many years because I felt so much shame around it. And it's only now that I can see that there was really no need for that. And it was purely my understanding of when somebody said, we'll keep it quiet, that I then took it as being something, as being really shameful. So in hindsight, if I hadn't have probably heard that comment, it could have been very, very different. But it's brought me forward to where I am today, where I have, I guess I share a lot of my insights now with my clients just to help them to move forward, which is interesting.
Amazing. Yeah, and that's huge because that impact, I would imagine, like it's such an emotional restraint of pain and pressure within your body
Mm.
that then flows out into other areas of your life. And I only imagine like now that you're sharing with your clients and probably the first breakthrough for yourself, I would imagine the relief being
Mm.
able to talk and to share that, not only on your heart but also your body.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, stepping into who I really am and being authentic has been a really, really, really big step.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking, if it's not too personal, you can absolutely decline to answer that, but just I personally would love to know what was the turning point for you that you realized that it's not connected with shame, that you can talk about it?
Um, I was at a business retreat of all places, and through a week's worth of work and having this amazing woman watch me and see sort of what was evolving for me, she pinpointed that sort of my, I guess, my diagnosis um, was pretty much holding me back from everything I was doing in life.
Wow.
And she dragged it out of me. And it took me to stand in the middle of a room and shout out loud, you know, that I had to own this health issue. Um, and that was my turning point.
I'm
And
having goosebumps just
Wow.
imagining it.
yeah,
That's so powerful,
just
isn't it?
yeah, pure acceptance as well. Nobody in the room had anything awful to say, which I was expecting for some reason. Yes, I think the acceptance and finally having being able to just speak my truth
Mm,
was really, really huge.
beautiful. Thank
Wow.
you for
Yeah.
sharing.
You're welcome.
What a huge moment of vulnerability, but also courage to say that amongst a group of people that, I mean, you've only known for days, right? And to be so vulnerable. I mean, that takes huge courage, such a big step on your part.
Mm. I
Mm,
think I felt ready, but I didn't know it at the time.
mm,
Yeah. So I guess the question is, what would you say to yourself when the health issue first started? Like if we were to look back at that and go, okay, so knowing what you know now, and
Mm.
maybe this is what you put in your post a couple of days ago as well, was knowing what you know now, what would you say to if it makes a difference to either minimize the challenge of it by holding on to it and not speaking up, or yeah, I suppose what sort of words or encouragement or just actions would you have done, if any?
Trusting. Um, I think I feared being, oh, actually, judgment is probably the word. I feared judgment
Mm.
most of all. Um, being a stylist and being, having to present myself as, being put together and, you know, knowing what I'm doing. Um, I used clothes a lot to pretty much hide what was going on underneath. But now I can see that the clothes weren't really necessarily for hiding. They were more about trying to show the real me as, yeah, I guess I was using those as a vehicle, which I still do, but in a positive way rather than a negative way. And that's what I also work with my clients to do as well.
Yeah, wow. So cool. It sort of reminds me of like when I started, when I was talking about the year 12 students I was talking to. And what you're saying there is a sort of gave me a flashback as well, and sparking ideas and or memories of when I was going through school. My cover up was humor or fitting in or chameleon, I suppose. So I wanted to fit in with everyone, so I was a chameleon, and my personality and my clothes, depending on who I was with, I would change. Um, and then I would always use humor. Well, I thought they were good jokes. Still think they're good jokes, but yeah, that's how I found I got connection. But same sort of sense of not knowing or not belonging for myself led to health issues as well, which is now is like having that memory of just, I guess, this conversation is bringing back these ideas of what the stress and the pressure of holding on does to our physical self through the emotions of actually doing that. And I think it's um, overlooked so much, especially in society and in humans, is to bury the emotion and move on and run from it. And until we get to your body gets to a point and it says, you know what, you've been holding on for too long. Here's something to give you a little nudge. Here's a wake up call for you. And these are those moments that when we have the wake up call, so to speak, that we look back at hindsight or the hindsight and look back and go, oh, I wish I actually was myself. Because then it wasn't until it was probably my mid 20s or so that I had that realization that I was like, I don't know who I am. I've been so many other people for so long that I have no idea what I like, who I am, what I like doing. And then having to rearrange your life or start learning how to do that. And yeah, I guess like going into talking back to yourself as that younger you is, like you said, it's trust, allowing and knowing that you are great exactly how you are. You don't need to pretend to be other people to make them like you. And that's a big thing. And this is what really hit home with these students the other day was when we were talking, when I told them my story about this. I said, oh, there's no way I would be up on stage right now talking to you if I hadn't gone through what I'd gone through. But I shifted that into gear into knowing that I wanted to break free from that. And through that, I was able to help others do the same. And it really, really sort of, you could feel the energy in the room. It really connected with them because the social anxiety and the challenges of the teenagers these days with the bullying and the technology doesn't turn off. When you finish school back in the day, you could leave school and then you're back home and it's gone. But these days it keeps going because they have it with the social media and stuff with them everywhere. And so
Mhm.
it's especially now if we're giving messages or sharing our talks with people, it's like how do we help people to see where they're at is perfect and to give them a future focus as to how it could impact them in a positive way.
Mm,
Mm.
true.
My this is an interesting topic for me because I could hardly wait to get out of school. I hated being in school because I didn't fit in.
Yeah.
But I was one of those kids that um, I just did what I pleased anyway. Um, it's like, okay, I don't fit in. All right, fine, whatever. With, but it was hard. It was very hard on me. Um, and we moved when I was 13, which was even more challenging as well too, because you're just coming into your teenage years, right? And yeah, trying to make new friends at that stage is not easy. Um, but I think more than anything of what it gave me was um, it gave me the courage to be different, even though it was hurtful because of things that kids said and did to me. But I just sort of stood strong and just said no, like this is who I am. I'm not going to change. And of course, my mom and dad, giving the best advice they knew how, and they're like, well, if that's how they treat you, those aren't the kind of friends you want to have. I don't know how many times I heard that, but it always stuck with me because even as I got older, and uh, I worked my first corporate career was with one of Canada's largest banks, and most of the branches are female heavy. There's a few men that work in the branches, or at least at that time, they were very female heavy. So they could be very sort of cliquey as well too, right? And so again, if you're not the one that's in the latest style or whatever, or I always used to say, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to work. I'm being paid by the employer. I'm here to do a job. And I was, very determined as to wanting to move up the ladder and stuff like that. So, fast forward to now being an entrepreneur for the last, I guess, 13 years. Um, it's given me that strength and that determination to be different, that I don't have to follow the crowd, that I, don't have to dance on TikTok and all those kinds of things. I can put my message out the way that I want. And I can be different. That is what that's what makes me who I am. But it's been a difficult road of being different and, standing by that and not following the crowd. Um, I'm sure I've, spent a lot of money on therapy, you know, putting that in my mind. And it's funny because one of my best friends was here visiting me, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And she's very much about wearing what's in style and doing what's in style. And she can be very critical at times. Oh, that looks awful. Take that off. That's not even in style anymore. Get rid of that. And 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 of course I just spend the time like putting this shield up of that's her stuff, that's not mine. It can be exhausting, not taking on that energy and standing in my ground. And I just say to her, that's your style, that's not mine. I have a different style. I like this. It was an expensive piece of clothing. It's a key piece of my wardrobe. I'm not getting rid of it.
Mm.
And but it can be exhausting to be there. So I guess when I reflect on what I went through in school, or that younger person, of just, yeah, as much as it hurt, staying true to myself. But yeah, it was hard, and it has left scars. It's definitely left scars. There are things that I've had to work through, but it's also what gives me the determination to keep moving forward. And I think as well too, um, it, I'll this could probably be very controversial, but it absolutely gave me the strength. My mom in 2019 had a major stroke, and she decided to have an assisted death, which is legal here in Canada. And she asked me to be her advocate, to make the phone call, to start the process. And I thought that the people closest to us that knew her so well, her sisters and, like really, really close people, that they would be there to support us. And I quickly found out that I actually had to shield her from all of the negativity and very hurtful comments. So I guess what I went through in school of having to be strong and just persevere, that made me strong to be able to protect my mom, support my mom's decision, and just basically tell people back off because
Wow.
this is her wish. This has nothing to do with you. You don't live in her body. And, she is going through with this. So I guess all of that being different and just having to stand my ground gave me the strength to be her support at that time.
That's
And
huge.
yeah,
It's
I
so
just
big.
wanted, sorry, I
You
just
go.
wanted to say it's such an honor actually that your mom asked you to support you through this and to advocate for her. And obviously she's chosen well. Like everything that you just said, those hindsight moments when you realize what all of that, all of those things that left scars in your life in school, the being different. Where as a child, you always think, especially in younger years when you're in school, being different never feels great. Later on we learn that being different is actually really cool, but not when you're a child. You just want to fit in, you just want to be part of the crew. And I saw that same thing with my boys going through it. I'm proud for the differences that they have, and I also understand why and how they want to fit in. I see both of that. And for them having the death of their dad hanging over them as that's different. I don't want to talk about it. I didn't even realize till like 18 months into high school that they never shared that nobody knew until I spoke at high school and an event was coming up, Father's Day, obviously, and not any event. It was the event that's the hardest one when you have lost your dad. And I talked to one of the teachers about it. And in that conversation, I had this moment of, full on slow motion. I'm like, you don't even know what happened, right? So I shared it, and then I started sharing it with the teachers, and with the intention, where I said, "This is not for treating my boys differently. This is for you to understand that if something differently happens, why, in particular with Father's Day coming up." So with that school career, like all these stepping stones that you go through, the differences that are hanging over you as something that doesn't feel great, when I look at your story now, on the topic of hindsight, isn't that just so beautiful that all these stepping stones led you to advocating for your mom and protecting her? It is, I feel it is such an honor to be able to be chosen for a role like that. And wow, she's chosen well, if I may say so.
The one thing that I learned through that process is you realize how much you love somebody when you can support their wish, even if it's something that you don't want.
Yeah.
Supporting their wish is all
Yeah.
about them.
Loud and clear. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, it's true love.
Mm.
I actually heard something about that this morning. It's like doing the things that exactly what you said, Connie. It's like doing those things that you don't want to do, and especially that position with your mother is, of course you don't want to do that, but it's you take yourself out of that picture because the love is so strong, and that's like that's a whole nother level. It's not like I'm not taking you to soccer today. It's yeah, but that's where we go into, and this is kind of why I wanted to spark this idea, and I love to go deeper on that, like for all of us, because it's becomes, and this purpose behind the Peace Project is, yes, we've been through challenges, and like the question going, what would you say to your younger self? And would you change anything? Now knowing what you've gone through and you can look at it in those places and you're like, yeah, it actually gave me the strength to support your mother, support yourself, support your family to a degree that has built that resilience and strength. So I guess the underlying message of the hindsight or the positive impact of our lessons learned dives into how do we share the message of what you're going through is okay, and giving people, because there's a stigma around challenge and stress and all these things and trauma in life, that they are bad, they are negative. And that's what I went through with the social anxiety and things like that. It was always looked like you had to get rid of it. It was always looked at as, how do we stop having that pain, stop having the trauma, and move into life. Yet really when we look into them and dive deeper, they are what made us ourselves now. Even if you're not doing anything with it, like we've been through events in life that do set the tone for your, I guess, future self. And within that, like if we're thinking about talking to our younger self, or I know for myself, I get to talk at schools to students as well. It's like, how do we share a message that where they're at is okay? What they may go through is okay, but then giving them the internal, I guess, the message of the why is like the internal empowerment to know that you can get through it and it's going to help you. It's kind of a tricky sort of conversation and question. How do we get more specific with that?
I think this is where storytelling comes in, where it's so powerful, when you come in as the future version, basically, and you share your story of your younger self and how you got through it. And I guess when I look at my younger self, I wish that somebody, something, a story, whatever, would have shown me that everything that I was going through will eventually become part of my superpower. And that is something that is a message that's really hard to convey in younger years. And for it to land in a way that you can actually take it as something soothing, something encouraging, something hopeful. And this is why I love what you do so much, Paul, because you come in as that future version into schools and you share from a raw and vulnerable perspective and make them realize that raw and vulnerable can actually be a superpower, can actually be really strong, can actually be something that is so powerful and encouraging with the work that you do today. And I'm very lucky as I see you as my soul brother. I'm very lucky that I've witnessed the past 10 or so years of you going through the journey and witnessing you grow through that. I'm absolutely blown away. And like I'm a huge fan here. I just love the work that you do and what you bring into schools, and looking at all our younger versions. I really wish there were more people like you doing the work that you do and coming from that future self perspective. So you know what? I've started where you are, maybe even further down, as in self-esteem, etc., and with anxiety and your story coming in and now sharing something so powerful. That to me is where the gold lies, in the storytelling, in the coming back from the future and sharing that message and saying, like, you know what? I started where you were, and look what you can do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That just makes it so clear. So thank you. I've just seen it all play out, and you make more sense of me than I make sense of me.
It's the beauty of the hindsight and the outside perspective, like
Yeah,
that's
and
a
it's
nice thing
it's
for
so
me
true,
to
isn't it?
say.
It's like looking through the timeline and
Mm.
like giving yourself that space, and like as coaches, as therapists, as healers and connectors, storytelling is such a deep, it doesn't have to be some long-winded thing. It's just
Mm.
reflecting on your experience and how you got there. And you sparked that idea because I I know my son is going through similar things. Like he's 8 now, and I'm seeing him going through some similar stuff. Um, Yet the difference in that I feel that I share the stories with him. I was like, I went through that, and this is what I did. and just leave it at that and let him take it on board. And it took a while, but then now he's just started to turn it back around. He's going, Dad, can you actually help me with that thing? And I'm doing some breath work for some anxiety and stuff like that. But then there's also the social have to fit in thing. You know, at 8 years old, it's already there.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's such a big thing, and I guess us as leaders in that space, it's not even a question as to when. It's like now we step in, and now we step up, and that's what I guess I want to convey in our message today is like to bring peace into everybody's backyard. It starts with yourself, but then there's people with you that can support you with their story and what they've done. And that's what I love about you guys, about bringing everyone's got a strong message and strong emotion and stories within this space that to sit here and to listen to you guys is so inspiring, and not only that, impactful, because no matter where you are in life, you've got an experience that you're going through that everyone's message can help.
What I love so much about these stories that we are sharing here today is that when you go through these, you know, the training wheels of life, etc., you know, you have these moments in your life where when you come to, I just want to very collectively say here, our age, I hope that's okay, and you get to this point where you've done so much work and you have these realizations of the hindsight moments where you can actually come to these challenges in life today and go like, oh, that's going to be a hindsight moment one day. You know, you almost recognize it already. And like, I know one day I'm going to get a lesson out of this. I don't know what it is yet, but I can feel the power of it and how profound it is. And then you go through the motions and you're like, oh, there it is. You know, I love that when you come to that point where I guess that's just knowing how to use your tools and then realize that even if I don't understand it right now, I think that might be pretty profound one day. You know, I just can't wait for that moment where I actually know what it is. Why am I going through this right now? You know?
Yeah, it's like the anticipation, you know, when it's stressful and hard, or you're sitting in a void, the anticipation of knowing that the other side of that is that breakthrough.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly who said it, but I remember it might have been Anthony Robbins or someone. It's like it's the breakdown to break through. Sometimes, especially if you're evolving and growing in your life and helping others do the same, like helping them through the breakdown and to go, you're fine. There's no need to hide, no need to bury, just trust and allow the process to unfold, and whatever tools you have within that space to guide you. And sometimes the biggest one is letting go of having to know. We're so want to know the how, but the how it's not up to us. We just got to know the what and the why.
Yeah.
And again, as Anthony Robbins I was listening to this morning, he said exactly that. It's like the how will get you stuck. The how will get you in a place of like, because consciously we have big ideas and big dreams and big aspirations. Then if we've never done it before, we don't know how. We can research, but physically and mentally, the things that you have to physically and emotionally and mentally grow through, not go through, but grow through to get to a place of, oh, I know how to do that now. That's where the confidence is. People go, oh, you're so confident in different things. Like when people say confidence, just because you've experienced a lot in that moment or in those events, that you now know the how to make it happen. Confidence isn't just being; it's a lifelong lessons. Maybe not lifelong, but anyone can have.
I remember when my stepson was, I don't know, his dad and I had already separated, and I was very fortunate that I was encouraged to still be a part of his life. His mom is bipolar, so she was the one that actually asked me to continue to be a part of his life because she saw that I was a stable influence. But he also, it's very typical. I mean, he's 33 now. Yeah, when I think about that, it just shocks me that he's 33. But, so we're talking a long time ago. So I think he was, it was probably 16, 17 years ago. And back then, you know, young boys were still encouraged, don't cry, boys don't cry. And I could see this, and it really bothered me because I could see, uh, I didn't know then what I know now, but that I can kind of see into people's souls, right? I can see what's affecting them. And so one time when him and I were alone, I don't know, we were doing something, and I said to him, look, I said, I know you're being encouraged to not show emotion, and that's fine. People have their opinions about what boys and girls shouldn't do. And and I said to him, somehow you have to get rid of that emotion. You can't hold it. Because if you hold it, you're going to take it out on somebody else, or it's going to cause a, illness in you. It's going to cause you not to be well. So I said, I don't care if you go on a walk by yourself and let those tears out, whether you go into a closet to let those tears out, figure out how you can release that emotion, because you're allowed to release that emotion. And his dad had at times a very volatile, uh, you know, would just kind of like blow up, because he would hold things inside. And I said to him, learn to be different than your dad. Your dad holds everything inside, and that's why he has such a bad temper at times. And, and both my stepson and I, we were just kind of like, okay, dad's having a fit here. Let him have a fit. But I said to him, that bothers you when that happens. So, figure out some way to let that out. If the people around you are saying you shouldn't do it, you still have the right to let it out. And it's interesting because, when they're a teenager at that age, and plus, I didn't call myself a stepmom, I was an influence in his life. You don't know what kind of impact you have. And you don't know whether they even take that in at that age, right? Because I'm a part-time influence. But I was really appreciative because when he got older, and I can't remember, but an adult kind of on his own, and he said, I always appreciated the advice that you gave me, the things that you told me. And he said, I didn't forget those things. I took those things in and realized that yes, I could be who I wanted to be. And so, I think that's the hard thing too. You don't know what's landing. You don't know whether they're going to take it in, but all you can do is share it, encourage them, and hopefully they do. And I'm very proud of the young man that he is now.
What a gift you have given him. It's just beautiful. And see the connection again from your upbringing. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
And that's the exact message that you gave him when he came to his dad. It's okay to be different. I know you love your dad. It doesn't mean that you have to have the same temper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the shift, and that's where the genetics change. When people say it's in my genes, my father had tempers, or someone had tempers, or they had weight issues, or something. It's like it's in the genes, but we're at a space now where we can. It's not genetic to have the emotions or have that. It's a belief system that creates an outcome that continues on. And so by bringing in these conversations, it allows the shift to happen because everyone has a 6 degrees of separation through genetics and energetics in who we meet and family wise. And the simple little things and the cues that you can give thousands of people you may have touched, but you'll never know in terms of you've inspired their life to change trajectory. Trajectory? It's the one. And it shifts there, and it can be that catalyst. It could be that huge and monumental to make that change in people's worlds by how we act and how we feel and how we respond. And that's why authenticity and coming from a loving space is so important. because it can go either way. Like it doesn't matter what you say, it can go either way because you're an influential person in people's lives, even if you don't know it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm. And I guess I want to throw a question to you, Stephanie, in terms of the journey that you went through, looking at because there's lots of different ways that we can go through what we go through, but like when going through an actual physical and health sort of an experience there, it's a nice and probably like a wake up call as well as to what's going on in my life and how is this happening. That when we first get health issues, it's always go to the doctor, get some pills, and put some band-aids on, and away we go. Yet when they're big, there's a whole lot more internal dialogue that kicks in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if
And
you to
yeah.
dive into that and see what comes out.
Yeah, I think with mine, so my diagnosis was Parkinson's disease when I was 40 years old. So it was, yeah, so it's a young onset version, and knowing that
Wow.
there is no cure, I think that was what blindsided me the most. It was the not knowing as to how it's going to progress because everybody's different. Um, I think it was the fear of the unknown
Mm,
and not knowing how long I was going to be able to have movement or how long I was going to be able to um, be, I guess, of any use to people in the world. I didn't want to become, I guess, dependent on people or, um, yeah, I think that that was probably my biggest thing. But showing my kids that I had the strength to keep pushing through. I started my own journey through health and wellness. I took up running, I took up healthy diets, all sorts of things, and my kids have witnessed that. And that's actually been something that I've now my kids have grown up. It's something that I can see that they have actually picked up on and taken through with them as kids into adulthood. So I guess my journey has actually had a positive impact on them rather than a negative. Um, yeah, whereas yeah, we always kept it quiet, but at that time they were definitely watching.
they always are, aren't they? And that's why it's important is that in realistic, like being so much like just the brutal honesty of yourself helps that to flow out. And it's sometimes it's not pretty and it's not nice in terms of what you have to go through, but then the choices that you make to live and to do those sorts of things gives others the strength to want to do the same.
That's exactly it. Choices.
Mm,
That is the key. Yeah, I started my journey not knowing where I was going to go or who I wanted to be, but I made a choice to take up running and look after myself and um, yeah, see where it took me. And to this very day, I only went and had a checkup a couple of days ago, and they are amazed at how slow the progression has been, and it's purely been because I've actually taken care of me and yeah, taken control of my life, I think.
That's really
wow.
cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
What a
That's
story. What a gift.
Have you watched the documentary about Michael J. Fox and some of his journey?
I've been watching his journey. I'm on his Fox trial finds. Um, I haven't actually watched the documentary yet, because his journey is very different to mine. There are so many different forms of Parkinson's, and I guess I'm still blocking that part of it out, which is something that I still need to work on, obviously. But yeah,
Or do
it's
you? Maybe,
sorry.
or do you? Maybe that's exactly what keeps you on the focus on the health rather than on the diagnosis. Like pardon that comparison, but people so often do that with me, and not that it's a health issue, but with the grief, you can have the focus on the grief, or you can have the focus on what do I do with it? What do I do with going forward? Because that's always going to be there. Yeah, that's fine. I think Paul and I, we talked about that very briefly yesterday about the fact that Rob died will always be there. That's not going to change. But I refuse to have grief over me like the scarlet letter that will define me for the rest of my life. I want my actions, my choices, my choosing happiness, choosing joy, choosing health going forward to define me, and also the future of my children, coming back to that, and not grief. People often say to me, so you work in the space of grief? I'm like, yeah, I work in the space of healing rather than, or choosing joy, but it's just such I mean, words and focus are making the biggest difference in our lives. And I actually quite like what you just said. I'm not really looking at that, and maybe that's not a bad thing at all. Maybe that's exactly what's keeping you in that health space. Just throwing it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I like coming up to the end of time, and not end of time. Time does not exist. Let's keep talking. But I'd like to sort of wrap it up a bit with that, and what a great way to go into that, Marie. It's like, because that's similar to my journey. It's like now my work is about transforming anxiety. It's not relieving it. It's not getting rid of it. It's not hiding from it and running from it. It's transforming. So the transformative experience of daily events is like what you guys are saying, with the grief, with the health, and with the strength of being different, that the transformation of it could be terrible, it could be painful, but we chose a different path with that. And so, in finishing up, what would you say to the people going through something now that became your superpower? It's like transformed into that next stage of your superpower, that you share your wonderful gifts with the world.
One of my favorite things that I often say to people, as long as you're breathing, there's hope.
Mm.
And I mean, it's just kind of simple, right? As long as you're still alive, there is still an opportunity to change, or to, view something differently, or to I just believe, as you're alive, there's an opportunity there in some way, some form.
Yeah, there's always a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think focusing on gratitude for what we do have and not what we don't have has been probably my biggest takeaway.
Mm. And that's a big picture of looking at the contrast, isn't it? And it's like choosing. And I think we spoke about this last week as well. Was it's not that you don't want to, or you're not running, or you're hiding from it. It's just your capacity is wanting to focus on what is possible and what we can do, and the great things that we do have in our lives, as opposed to all the other stuff that is, it's not to pretend that it's there, not to be ignorant or, about it. But the choice of your focus is where you get to take your life. And it empowers your cells, your structure, your nervous system, your emotions, which your energy flows out in front of you. So then if you can focus on that, then your impact and your empowerment of self is a gift that you're passing on to others. And I think that's so much empowerment within the gratitude, with the gifts, with the understanding.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think what I would like to bring in as my final contribution here is I had a lady, she's anyway, I'm just going to go straight to the story. She posted something about picking one of those cards for icebreakers, when you do networking functions and some people bring cards for icebreakers, and hers was, who was your female influence that shaped you the most in your childhood? And her first step was into anger and frustration and sadness and loneliness because she did not have that. And she said, well, here's my choice right now. In the moment, I can go into anger and into why do I pick that card? And out of all the cards, I had to get this one. Or I can step into how can I today be that leader that I didn't have for others. And I'm having goosebumps now just sharing that. I loved the transformation that she had through that question, through that realization in the moment, and the ripple effect that it had. Because me reading that post, I reached out to a lady in my life where I felt that she might need a little bit of nurturing, love, leadership, mentoring, all of that. And she came back to me and said, you have no idea of how impeccable that timing was, And then I shared it back to her, that did the original post, and there was this love bubble and the ripple effect of all of that. And I thought, how beautiful is that? Through one person choosing to step up and speak about her vulnerability in that moment and the transformation, what she's done. And this is everything that we talked about today, And that's what I want to leave everyone with, from my end, from my little contribution here. Whatever you felt was missing in your childhood, to feel safe, to feel brave, to feel encouraged, to feel whatever it was that you weren't feeling, how can you show up at that person today, whether you have kids or not, but anybody else around you, you will influence them through stepping up as that person that you needed when you were growing up. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. So thank you so much for today, for diving deep, the vulnerability, the strength, the courage, everything that life throws at you, and for stepping into this space. And for the guys listening and are in that space, you're in the perfect space, in the right time, in the right moment, doing the right thing. Give yourself a space to listen, to grow, and to expand, and pull on the courage and the experiences of your past and other people's as well in their stories. For more information, if you have questions, if you have comments, then please jump in the chat on the Backyard Peace Project. Check out the links in there, and then you can revisit parts of these chats that we have, these coaching series, where you get some insights into life. You get some impactful benefits within this space. And it might just be that one story that you need to hear that can change and give you that catalyst that you need to shift life. And there's so much going on. And we have some big events coming up, so stay tuned in the next few months, and book launches and lots of exciting stuff coming with some great authors and experiences and stories galore to help transform, step in, and to bring peace to your backyard. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for sharing, guys. Once again, going deep into the abyss of life. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.